Hello gardening friend, welcome back to Gingerbread Garden. I'm Lani and today we're going to talk about growing beans in a small space garden. Beans are seeds from various species of flowering plants in the Fabaceae family, also known as the legume family. They are staple in many diets around the world and they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. Beans can be broadly classified into two categories: fresh beans or dried beans. Fresh beans like green beans and snap beans are harvested while still young and tender. Dried beans like black beans and kidney beans are allowed to mature fully before harvesting and drying. Nutritionally, beans are powerhouses. They are an excellent source of protein, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Because of their nutritional value, beans are a crucial part of many diets, especially in vegetarian and vegan diets where they often serve as a primary source of protein. They can be used in a variety of dishes, from soups and stews to salads and side dishes. In the garden, beans are a gardener's friend for several reasons. First, they are nitrogen fixers, meaning they can take nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form that plants can use. This enriches the soil, benefiting not only the beans but also the plants grown alongside them. Planting beans is quite straightforward. They prefer warm weather and well-draining soil. Most beans are direct seeded into the garden after the danger of frost has passed. They grow quickly and can be harvested in as little as 50 to 60 days for some varieties. Now let's go over to my 10 tips to grow beans in a small space garden. Tip number 1 is to choose your preferred variety. There are two main types of beans, bush and pole. Bush beans are compact, growing about 1 to 2 feet tall and usually don't need support. However, I like to tie mine to a stake to help with the weight. Pole beans, on the other hand, like these ones, are climbers and need a trellis or some support structure. Both types work well in small space gardens, but bush beans are simpler because they don't require trellis. If you can set up a trellis, pole beans are a great way to maximize vertical space. I especially enjoy growing yellow and purple bush beans because they're easy to spot when it's time to harvest. For pole beans, I love growing long beans, which are not only delicious, but it also reminds me of my native land, the Philippines. Tip number 2 is to choose a sunny location. Beans grow well in both raised beds and containers, but I find that they thrive and produce better in raised beds. I like growing bush beans in a tall raised bed, which makes harvesting easier and it gives them more sun exposure. For pole beans, a shorter raised bed is more practical, especially for a petite gardener like me. If space is really limited, you can grow beans in container. Just make sure they are at least 12 inches deep and have good drainage. Whether planting in a raised bed or container, place them where they can get 6 to 8 hours of sun. In hot climates, you might need shade cloth during the peak summer heat. Always observe your plant and adjust as needed. Tip number 3 is interplant to maximize space. Beans are a fast-growing crop that you can plant after another crop to make the most of the growing season. You can directly sow the bean seeds before cutting down the previous plants. I like planting beans after heavy feeders like broccoli, cauliflower, and kohlrabi because beans, like other legumes, help replenish the soil with nutrients. For a continuous harvest, plant bush beans every 14 to 21 days until mid-July. Tip number 4 is space properly. Plant bush bean seeds 1 to 2 inches deep and 2 to 6 inches apart. For pole beans, plant seeds 4 to 6 inches apart along a trellis. You can also plant 3 or 4 seeds around each pole and guide the vines to climb. Tip number 5 is optimize your soil. Beans thrive in well-draining soil that is rich in organic matter. To help them grow strong and healthy, add compost or well-rotted manure to your soil. One of my favorite soil amendments for beans is worm castings. They're easy to produce, especially with an in-ground composter, which distributes them naturally in the raised bed through the worms. Or you can also spread them around yourself. Tip number 6 is water consistently. Beans need consistent moisture, especially during flowering and pod development. Water your plants deeply and regularly, but avoid overwatering to prevent root rot. Check the soil before watering to avoid overwatering or underwatering. Tip number 7, mulch around your plants. Mulching helps retain soil moisture, suppress weeds, and keep the soil temperature consistent. Use organic mulch like straw or wood chips around your bean plants. Remember not to overdo, as it can cause root rot as well. Tip number 8 is watch for pests. Keep an eye out for common pests like aphids, bean beetles, leaf miners, and spider mites. Use organic pest control methods such as hand picking, high pressure water, or providing barriers. Tip number 9 is fertilize sparingly. Beans are nitrogen-fixing plants, which means they can take nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form they can use. Avoid over-fertilizing with nitrogen-rich fertilizer. Instead, use a balanced fertilizer if necessary. Tip number 10, harvest regularly. Harvest beans regularly to encourage the plant to produce more pods. For bush beans, pick them when they're about the size of a pencil. For pole beans, harvest when the pods are fully grown but still tender. Bean pods mature fast, so don't wait too long before harvesting. Once the beans mature and shells become tough, might as well save them for seeds. Which brings me to my bonus tip, seed save. Saving seeds has many benefits. It saves money since you won't need to buy seeds again, and it helps develop bean varieties better suited for your climate, meaning they'll perform well in your garden. Let the pods dry completely before removing the pods from the plant. Store the seeds in a cool, dry place, and you'll be ready for the next season. And there you have it, 10 tips to grow beans in a small space garden. With these tips, I hope you'll be able to enjoy fresh, homegrown beans no matter how limited your gardening space is. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more gardening tips from Gingerford Garden. Happy gardening! Until next time, bye-bye!